National real estate agent. Today we are diving
Welcome.
into a critical and sensitive
Welcome,
topic.
Lala. Welcome, Lala.
Okay, we're going to try to start that again. Welcome to Fly Nubian Money.
Lala.
Yes,
Lala. Is she
yes.
frozen?
No, you're frozen, Tiara. Lala's good.
I'm frozen.
No, we can
Oh,
see you,
okay.
but she's
I
good.
can't hear anyone.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead,
Oh,
Lala.
Oh, okay.
you know what? Hey guys, we got gremlins, but we're so happy that
Yeah,
you're
go ahead,
here
Lala.
once again. Welcome to Fly Nubian Money. I'm Lala, international real estate agent and your host for today's episode. Today, we're diving into a critical and sensitive topic, drug use in the Black community. We'll discuss the blatant openness about drug use in our culture and its implementations. We'll also touch on a recent incident involving rapper Nelly, who has been arrested multiple times for drug-related charges. So today I have my co-queens, Constance Carter, wealth activist, Erica Lewis, author of Faith in Transition. Why do I always stumble that? You know what? I think I need to read your button. I need to read your button. And we also have Tiara Williams, who is an actress, producer, and boss, and she'll be right back. She's having a few little gremlins in her system. Listen, I do want to jump into this, but the reason we actually started this conversation is because rapper Nelly was arrested for, well, it says, ecstasy possession, but there's a lot of kind of controversy about why he was arrested and what he was arrested on. So I want to pull up that graphic and then pull up a video about his arrest. And he was arrested in St. Louis, Missouri, where he is from. So let's see what that is. Welcome back, Tiara.
Oh my God, y'all! I'm so sorry. I was like, why can't I hear anybody? Like, Lala, are you there? What's happening? I'm sorry. I was like, is she doing the intro? What's going on?
I love it. See, we always have a good time here. We always have a good
Technical
time.
difficulty, baby. I'm so sorry about that. Okay. I'm back and I'm back.
Well, we're going to pull up that video about Nelly before we get into our actual conversation about it. So let's go ahead and sit back and see what happened in Missouri.
Rapper Nelly has been arrested for possession of ecstasy, according to authorities. The celeb, who is expecting his first child with singer Ashanti, is facing legal trouble in Missouri. According to a Missouri State Highway Patrol arrest report viewed by E! News, Nelly was arrested early in the morning on August 7th and arrested for possession of a controlled substance, 4 ecstasy pills, and not having insurance. Per the Missouri State Highway Patrol via NBC News, the arrest occurred at 4:45 a.m. in Nelly's hometown of St. Louis, Missouri, and stemmed from a failure to appear for a warrant for a previous traffic charge of not having insurance. The warrant violation was discovered when the 49-year-old was asked to show his ID to state troopers stationed at the Hollywood Casino in St. Charles, a Missouri State Highway Patrol told TMZ. Afterward, Nelly, whose real name is Cornell Haynes II, was searched, at which time he was found in possession of the 4 ecstasy pills, per the outlet. The rapper was held at the Maryland Heights Police Department, but has since been released. Following the arrest, Nelly's attorney Scott Rosenblum spoke out on the incident, saying in an August 7th statement to E! News that Nelly was not charged with drug possession. Rosenblum claims that the rapper was arrested for no proof of insurance from 2018 on a warrant issued December 2023, and that he received no notice before alleging, after winning several jackpots at a venue where Mr. Haynes frequently visits and entertains at its amphitheater, instead of just supervising the transfer of Mr. Haynes' winnings, this officer felt compelled to needlessly run a check for warrants. The attorney continues, this officer then conducted a search without probable cause, where he claimed to have found alleged ecstasy in Mr. Haynes' personal property. As for the arrest warrant, Rosenblum argues that because Nelly often travels internationally, he is regularly asked to supply proof of no warrants and FBI checks, but this time there were none. He ends the statement with, I am 100% confident this case will go nowhere, and we will be asking for an inquiry into this officer's conduct. News of Nelly's arrest comes less than 4 months after he and Ashanti shared they were engaged and expecting their first child together. Shortly after, public records revealed the couple had privately tied the knot in December 2023.
Wow, there's a lot to unpack here. First of all, they're saying that he wasn't arrested for the actual possession of these drugs, that he was arrested for insurance, which is absolutely nuts to me in the first place. So for those of you who are watching, I want to hear your comments on this. What is your initial thoughts? Was he really arrested because of these ecstasy pills, or is this a cop who just wanted a little bit of notoriety by arresting Nelly? Because we all know a lot of this goes on in our communities where people are actually innocent of things and then they end up having trumped up charges. So we would love to hear your comments. But ladies, I want to know your initial thoughts on this because I got a lot to unpack with this. This man's expecting a baby. He's newlywed. Him and Ashanti have been together for a long time. And actually, Nelly has been arrested on drug charges earlier in his career. So I'm going to start with you, Tiara, since you've given us a giggle today already. I want to hear your thoughts. What are your initial thoughts about this video?
So about the video, well, just in general, about this altogether, right? So I was having a conversation with someone and I was like, oh, Nelly X, what is this, right? And it sent me down a rabbit hole. And then I found out about what happened in 2016 and then just all of the things. And I remember seeing a video where Nelly's tooth fell out just randomly and Ashanti was like giggling. And I was like, wait a minute. That's what happens when you're smoking, ... And so there was just, I'm not saying my brother is on drugs, but like, I'm very sensitive. I grew up without parents because of drugs. So it's not something that I take lightly. But I think it went over my head initially until I start digging and being a journalist yesterday and was like, wait a minute, is my brother in trouble? So that was my, that's my initial thoughts on this whole thing. It's like, if he is struggling, it's something that he's been able to hide very well because, none of us would even think that would be a thing. So I'm praying that this is not real.
I'm praying for it too, because like you, my family has been directed very closely with drug use and addiction. So I have actually lost a brother to addiction, and I have other family members extremely close to me who have gone through that, as well as a son who is now sober for 4 years now. So this is a really close topic to me because, I don't think I know anyone that hasn't been affected by drug use in their family. And it's a very heartbreaking thing to go through, to see your loved ones in the throes of this and you can't do anything about it. You feel helpless and hopeless a lot of the times. So Erica, what is your initial thoughts on this? And have you been through it with someone in your family, in your life that are addicted to drugs?
Well, yes, actually, my uncle passed away. It'll be 3 years this November, and he struggled with his sobriety for years. I remember him saying he started getting high when he was 16, and he graduated high school a year after I was born. So that's how long he had been doing drugs. My grandmother, his mother, was in complete denial of it. She, not my son, no, he's a good boy, no, her boy. And her boy, I cleaned out her apartment one day and I found paraphernalia that was out of this world. And I said, look, this ain't mine. I work, I got bills, this ain't mine, I can't afford this. And it came down to accepting it. And then when he finally got his life cleaned up and he finally got it together and he went home to the South to be with his wife, he lasted 2 years and he had a brain aneurysm and he died. Very unfortunate, after all of that struggle, after, going through all of that to battle it, to get through, he ended up on dialysis, but he was better. He wasn't getting high. He wasn't drinking, he was with his family. He got to see his grandkids. And then one day it was time for dialysis and he didn't make it out the house and he passed away. And unfortunately, his stepdaughter found him. So I've experienced this. What's troubling is the way the story was released, because now there seems to be a lot of backpedaling. Because when I stumbled across this yesterday, it's like that was the primary thing that was focused. It said nothing about him being at the casino. It said nothing about him not having insurance, because now that makes no sense. Because if he's in the casino to cash out winnings, this issue with insurance makes no sense, because all you have to do is show proof of insurance, and now we can just move on, cash your money, and you can go. So I think there's some pieces missing from the story. Maybe he was having a really good time at the casino while he was winning and showing out. Maybe there was a vendetta against him. Maybe, he won a little too much money, took somebody's money, and somebody's pissed off. And, made him a target, go check him out. So I don't know, it just seems it's a little disturbing. Here's a man who's been in the business. He's almost 50 years old. He is a grandfather. He's going to be a new dad soon if Ashanti hasn't had the baby. And he's been down this road before, and it's like, conquer your demons regardless of what it is. You have to put those demons to rest, because if you don't, they're going to keep creeping up and creeping up. And I think this is just what we're kind of noticing here. He hasn't quite cleaned out the closet. He hasn't quite sealed all the bones. So yeah, you got to clean out that closet and seal it shut, cement it.
Yep, that's true. And, because a lot of times people know people's status, this is also another opportunity for that. I mean, he hasn't been in the news a lot, guys, other than the fact that him and Ashanti are expecting a baby. Intech Family on YouTube says Nelly was probably driving a nice car real late at night, and the cop saw an opportunity. And Proverbs 31:30 says, set up, Black folk don't use ecstasy like that. I beg to differ, Proverbs.
It was only 4 ecstasy pills. It was 4. The thing that really got my attention is that it was an exact number, 4. So is 4 pills enough to garner attention? Is 4 pills make it a felony? Does 4 pills make it, you know what I mean? Why such an emphasis on the number 4?
Right.
Yeah.
So some things just don't add up. We Wealth Women, we know who that is. We miss you and love you, Athena. A lot of people in the entertainment industry take drugs and all kinds of medication. Ashanti probably knows something, but maybe she thought it's in the past. That's not something you like to share with the public. So maybe if she does, that's not something you want to talk about. I mean, she's getting ready to have this baby if she hasn't had it already. And why not focus on something or surrounded by love and a new beginning with that? Not that doesn't mean you shut out any problems, but, it's got to be very stressful, especially being pregnant. Constance, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. And have you had anyone in your family struggle?
So first of all, I'll say I don't trust the police. So that's the first thing that I'll say about this. And as I've seen the video now I'm seeing a whole different perspective, because of course the headlines are Nelly arrested for drugs and no insurance. You like, this millionaire ain't got no damn insurance. This doesn't make sense. It don't add up. Right. But also ecstasy, y'all, like, ecstasy is more of, I think, a recreational drug now. I never had the honor of doing ecstasy, but I do have friends who've done it very recreationally. I was a good Christian woman, Christian married woman when ecstasy kind of got popular. So I don't know anything about what it is, but I know that they take it like in sex. It's not like Molly. It's like they take it to heighten their sexual experience. That's what ecstasy is. So it's not like a drug where you get addicted to it. It's like you do it for a person. You kicking it with somebody, you do some ecstasy, and it makes the experience that much greater. So that's the first thing. But I don't trust the police now that I see. So what it said, what I thought I saw the video say was that it was an old warrant for insurance from a while ago. It's not insurance that he didn't have today. So the police officer was pushing. He was looking for a reason to make a case or arrest him, and that's what happened from what I see. So I think it very well could be the police. Drugs, him being a drug addict, I don't know that that's the case with like ecstasy, because like I said, it's a recreational drug that they use for, Now, who was he kicking it with? Having that ecstasy, because if Ashanti is pregnant, that's a whole different conversation. Like, who is you doing this ecstasy with? That's something that him and Ashanti needs to discuss. In terms of like family members, I had to think about that. I was like, no one in my immediate family, but I do remember I have an uncle he was pretty bad on drugs. Now this is gonna trip you out. So when he died about 20 years ago. And I remember he lived with my other uncle, and when they went to clean up his room, he was like on his deathbed, and he was still like shooting up, and there was needles and everything in his bed. But a couple of years ago, my dad's watching the news, and all of a sudden my uncle's face appears on the news, right? And he's like, and this is my dad's stepbrother, and he's like, my brother was on the news. Guess what they found out? Ancestry DNA came up. Somebody took an ancestry DNA, and it found out that he was a serial killer.
Girl, you talking my language. I love true crime.
Yeah, that was crazy.
That is my thing.
So
that was my thing.
That was
I gotta go look that up.
Yeah, it was crazy. So a young couple in Milpitas, California, and he murdered them back in like 1980, and then they never discovered it, but they had his DNA. And when somebody in the family went to go do their DNA, it popped up, bing, 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 and so they exhumed his body. And they found that he killed them, he murdered them, and they said that he possibly had other victims in other areas. We had no idea.
See, people can people can live secret lives. Y'all, if y'all just not joining us, you know you need to stay now, don't you? Because you don't know what we're going to talk about. You are watching Fly Nubian Money. We are here Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We discuss all sorts of things. We discuss pop culture. We talk about money. We talk about what's going on in the world. Sometimes we talk about politics. But most of all, we have a really good conversation. And we'd love for you to join in on the conversation. So make sure you put your topics in here you want to talk about and say your comments. Talk back to us. We don't talk at you, we talk with you. And if you don't want to miss any of our episodes, you want to make sure that you text the word Queens, QUEENS, to 87948. And if you just miss us and you're like, I missed my Queens today, you just go on over to Spotify and look us up over there on Fly Nubian Money there. Make sure that you subscribe and you give us 5 stars and you take us on the road with you. Go on and grab that coffee and take us and talk back to us there too. We'll hear you. Don't worry about it. Now, finally, if you want to make sure that you make your money right and money tight, because things in the world right now is crazy. You need to make sure that you have your financial house in order. We got you. Go to our website, flynubianmoney.com. We have free resources, free courses, and all sorts of things to help you get your financial house in order. So let's get back to the conversation. One thing that we know about the world of hip hop, the world of R&B as well, guys, not just hip hop, okay? The music that we listen to the most in our community, there seems to always be kind of a drug culture behind it. I want to pull up some of the artists that kind of glorify drug use in their lyrics. And, it seems that all these kids now kind of love to listen to what they're saying. So here's a few rappers. Some of them I know, some of them I do not, because that is just not one that I listen to a lot. But here's some of their references. Future's mask off says Percocets, Molly, Percocets. Now, me, I didn't even know what that was till I heard that. I mean, honestly, I'm that stupid. Okay. But because I was always afraid to take anything because I'm a vocalist, I didn't even know what was out there. Lil Wayne, I feel like dying. Only once the drugs are done, I feel like dying. That's pretty heavy, y'all. I mean, sometimes y'all need to really listen to lyrics. They tell a lot about who is saying them. Little Pumps, who I do not know. Gucci Gang, my lean cost more than your rent. Ooh, it does. And Juice's World, Lean With Me. Drugs got me sweating, but the room getting colder. And ASAP Rocky, LSD, well, L, money sign D. I know I dream about her all day. I think about her with her clothes off. And he ain't referencing no woman. So my next question to you, Tiara, do you think that these lyrics and the popularity of these rappers and the, I've got grills and I've got money and I'm doing this, do you think this influences the generation that actually listen to them?
Absolutely. I think you can even see it with the openness of how open people are about taking drugs and popping mollies and rolling And you know, when I first moved to California, and it was so interesting to me because somebody mentioned the culture here in LA, working in the industry. It's like people were so open. I know so many people that have like taken fentanyl and died, but people were so open about drugs. Like you could go to a party and it'd be like, oh, they're doing that in this room. So if you want to party, if you like to party, if you like that white girl or whatever the drug was, you could just openly have it. And people, it's just an open thing. And I think there's just an openness right now with our youth. They're not, I mean, if you listen to a lot of songs, not just these artists, but like the Migos, and just there's so many songs that I can think of where people are literally like, we get high. I think The Weeknd's whole album is about like smoking, I mean, like cocaine use. It's just like, what is going on here? So I noticed that, and so it's just made it a little bit more palatable. What was I think what is his name? He's from Wiz Khalifa was saying that he went to one of the fests. I can't think of what fest it was, but he said he was on stage and like he noticed that everybody in the crowd had cups of lean in their hand. And these are young kids. And he was like, what am I saying out loud? Like, what effect am I having on these kids? Because literally everybody had their cups in the air. And it was like looking at, you know, you looking at 20,000 people who are kids who have lean in the air saying like, this is what I'm doing. And Lala, I know you don't know this because you obviously are, but Juice World actually had there's an interview that's out that says like when Juice World first met Future, he told him like, man, it's so nice to meet you. Man, you're the one who influenced me to use lean. Today, Juice World is dead from a drug overdose. And so it was like,
And
you know, so it's
Future
just,
don't use it. Future don't even use
and
it.
Future doesn't even use drugs. I mean, I'm sure he maybe does something, but he doesn't. He was like, man, it kind of messed me up. If you Google it, he's literally saying like, man, that really like, you know, that really
Because he
did
said he
something to
doesn't
me.
do it. Yeah.
He doesn't do it. He said, I don't even do that. You know, so it just, I know that kids are being influenced, you know, especially the ones in our community. So I just think it's really important that, you know, we're really paying attention. And even back in the day, you know, when we're thinking about like Rick James and Mary Jane and Brown Sugar and all the songs that were in the 60s, 70s, and 80s that were talking about drugs, we had that. But I don't think it was so blatant. As a kid, I didn't know what Mary Jane was, you know, unless you told me, you know.
And remember White Horse? We used to jam out to White Horse.
I had no idea
We
what they were
ride the
talking
white
about.
horse. I
Had
was like,
no
what's that?
idea.
Okay, we riding the horse. You know, I had no idea.
Right. But now they're just blatant. Now they're just blatant. It's like we use crack. Be crackheads.
But
It's
remember
cool.
when crack was not in style? Like,
Man, now they just listen. Now rappers be talking about like lacing crack with other drugs, and you know, it's really, we're living in a really interesting time, and I think our kids are you know, not afraid to roll. They're not afraid to pop mollies and X. Yeah, they're way less scary than we used to be.
I'm actually afraid of all that stuff, not only just because of seeing my brothers go through it. And like you, Erica, my brother who died in his 50s, he struggled with drug use all of his life. And I've seen him get clean and then relapse, get clean, be a counselor and relapse, you know, and then finally when he felt like he really had licked it in his 50s because of his drug use, he ended up with hepatitis C and he ended up with leukemia. And I never will forget my brother at the last moments called me and said, Lorianne, because all my family call me Lorianne because I'm from the country. Lorianne, I'm afraid this time. And the fact that I had to comfort him, knowing that he in his mind had felt like this is it. I've really done this to myself, was heartbreaking. And when it's something that you can't do to help them, all you can do is to be there sometimes. So, you know, some of the things that are attached to all this are not always, you have to look at the deeper root, right? We have to look at the deeper root of this. It's not always just something that is popular. Sometimes people are just trying to hide the pain and hurt that they don't want to face. It's definitely, I call it a demon. It's the monkey riding your back.
Yeah.
And we all have some kind of addiction. Me, food. I fight food my whole life. I've been 285. Okay. So, you know, we all have our own struggles, but
That's right.
It's hard when you have this type of things.
Some people are addicted to work. Some people just work themselves to death and work and work and work, and enough is never enough. And it's like, okay, well, what are you running from? And they're running from home. No, but they don't want to be home. So addiction is addiction. So never turn your nose up at one addiction versus another, because they're all the same.
Yeah, they are. They are. And you're no better than anybody else, with whatever your addiction is. Sometimes your addiction shows and sometimes it doesn't, right? We all got skeletons in your closet. You just got to make sure that you stop judging other people for their skeletons. Constance, do you feel that they are pushing this drug culture on our communities more than any other? Because we know rock and roll, everybody talk about rock and roll and the drug use, right? We had like Etta James, she struggled, Billie Holiday struggled. But do you think that they ignore the other cultures and push more of this on our culture?
I believe it's a blatant attack against our children, our people, period. And they do it through music, which is one of the most powerful forms of influence, period, across the board, right? And just before I got on here, I had the privilege and the honor to twist my son's hair, and tomorrow we're going to take him to college. I'm taking him to college, to Jackson State, and I was just telling them, son, you got to really watch what you're doing. You got to really watch, because all these kids smoke weed. So I'm like, you got to watch who you smoke with. You don't know what they can be doing, what they can be putting in it. And we were just talking about, I was telling them, people, they get addicted. It's crazy that they get addicted to drugs at this stage in the game when you know what crack does and people start smoking crack. So just make sure that you're very mindful of that, So in any case, but it's a direct attack on our people. In fact, I shared a video not too long ago of Tank talking about exactly what the music industry does with pushing this to our children. And if you could roll this video, because they don't push love, they don't push positivity. What they do push is they push this drug culture. So what they do is they put more money in the music that has the influence of drugs so that they could continue to brainwash our children. Can we roll that video?
This isn't the threat. Our love is.
Go back.
Family separated. It's fine. It's perfect. The man staying with his family and raising his kids and pouring into his woman. That's the threat. That's why R&B takes such a back seat, because we're not promoting the aesthetic that continues to perpetuate the stereotype. You guys are killers. You guys are animals. You guys are savages. That's when you're at your best. So that's what we're going to reward. Those are the guys who get the $100 million deals. Those are the guys who fill up the arenas and stadiums and talk that shit. We love when you talk that shit. Love? We're cool. We're cool. We don't own conglomerates. Our violence isn't the threat. Our love is.
That's it. Our violence isn't the threat. Our love is. They blame. This is somebody from inside the music industry that says, listen, when I talk positive, when I try to push out positive, if I try to do something positive, that's not going to sell, because the powers that be is not putting the money in it. What they're putting the money in is the things that will destroy us as a community. This is intentional. And so this is warfare. This is part of the social conditioning that the powers that be do to make sure that they destroy our communities. Black people don't own the record companies. Black people don't own the record labels. It's not us that's putting it out there. We're just the ones. It's kind of like you got the Nino Browns and you got the ones on the street corner. The record labels, they are the Nino Browns or the drug lords that are, and the rappers, they're just the in people they're pulling the strings and they making it happen. They serving the coke. And they're the ones that's being affected mostly, and our children are being affected. It's unfortunate, but that's what they're doing, and we got to wake up.
Yeah,
I feel that too. Yeah, go ahead, Tiara.
I was about to say, you see, in the 80s, they dumped crack into our communities, and they really couldn't do that, right? You can't just keep doing that. So how can we do that in a way that isn't as blatant? Although all of the racism is always blatant, but how can we do it in sneak? Music is the only thing, and this is a scientific fact, but music is the only thing that you don't have to do anything for it to permeate your subconscious.
Frequency.
It's the frequency, right? So it's the only thing that you don't have to like think about it or nothing. You can just literally, it gets in you without you even having to welcome it, right? And then these chants that you hear over and over again: kill, murder, use drugs, kill, murder, use drugs. And I think that's what gets in the mind of our youth. Chicago and that drill music. Listen, when I was in college, they didn't play Lil Jon in the club because it made people fight. Throw them bows, like fight in the club. Like we used to be like, oh my God, don't, like all of that is a vibrational frequency thing. And so, we just have to be mindful of what our children are listening to. I'm always thinking about what my kid is listening to. Because my kid a little different. She like rock and roll. She like I can walk in and she's just listening to a little bit of everything. Like I'm like, is this heavy metal? Like what are they saying? I'm always mindful and just saying, Lauren, we can't listen to this. You gonna listen to this John P. Key or some
Right, I
Freddie?
do that too. I'll be like,
You
hey,
gonna
you got
listen
some
to
Kirk
something
Franklin
else.
up in there. You got, we're gonna have to
You gotta have to balance.
Yeah, we gotta switch it. So I'll give her a little bit of 21 Pilots or whatever she wants to listen to, but she gonna get this
Yeah.
Kirk Franklin every day.
Right,
So
absolutely.
anyway, but yes, but I just think it's something that we don't have to go far for it to get in us.
Absolutely.
And so
No,
it's
we
getting in
don't.
us.
I know. I know. We'll forget. I have the funniest story. Like I'm, like 14, 15 years old, and I'm huge into Prince. Like I was a Prince fan with his first album at 8 years old. I wasn't a Purple Rain jump on. I was long there. So he had all these subgroups, right? And one of the subgroups was like, they had a song called "The Screams of Passion." I'm running around the house cleaning, doing my job. My mother busted into the room and said, "What you know about Scream of Passions?" Nothing, mama, not a thing. Went ahead and put that gospel right on because I was like, I'll never sing that out loud again. But music does affect you, which brings us to this. Check this out, guys. This shows you directly. This kid is known as Young Knight. He's a rapper. If you ain't rapping about being on no drugs, or you out here in the streets selling some drugs, he said of his chosen profession, you ain't got some of that going on. Like nobody want to hear what you talking about. He's 16 years old, y'all, and he is an opiate user.
But here's the thing: it's not that nobody wants to hear it. This is not what they're pushing. They're not promoting this. They're not putting the money behind it. So you're not really hearing anything else. That's what you hear, and that's what they are pushing to our children. That is the real problem. The powers that be.
I got a question for y'all. So when we were younger, because I seen somebody in the chat, Brian said, I guess y'all
Actually, I
grew up
was.
listening. I guess y'all grew up listening to contemporary jazz.
I did.
As a matter of fact, as a singer, I did. But I did listen to Lil' Kim, and I did listen.
I listened to NWA.
I listened to NWA. But there was something about balance, and we had Queen Latifah, we had MC
We
Lyte,
did.
but
We had
Lil'
Tribe
Kim.
Called. We had Tribe Called Quest.
We had
We had positive rap too. And you remember when NWA sang "Express Yourself," and he was talking about they were talking about just saying no, that they were on that, but that wasn't it. And it didn't catch. But then when they started talking about chronic and weed smoke and all that stuff, that's when they got the funding, y'all.
Yeah.
That's when they got the funding.
But they know how to do that. They're expert people at doing that to keep down communities. We all know that. I mean, outside of even music, y'all know Hoover had everybody on tap in just to see if they could do anything to keep our community down. And don't try to do nothing positive, because if you do, then they see the threat. If you are just now joining us, you are watching Fly Nubian Money. We are here Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We discuss hot topics. We discuss things about our communities, things that affect you and in your life. We don't just talk at you, we talk with you. So I would love for you to go ahead and put those comments in, and we will address your comments, share your story with us. If you do not want to miss any of our episodes, you can text the word Queens, QUEENS, to 87948. And that way you won't miss an episode. And you also can check us out on Spotify. So just go ahead on over there, put in Fly Nubian Money, and you will find us there. Now, listen, if you think that you got what it takes to come on here and talk with our queens here and jump on in this conversation, all you have to do is send us an email. We would love to have you. And you can send that to info@reel, REEL, virtual.net. So that's info@REELVIRTUAL.net. We would love to have you on here. Listen, I want to address a couple of the comments that we have today. It's so interesting because we're all talking about these throwback songs because we all know them. I mean, we can go back in the beginning of time for us and reference these type of things in different genres. FLJPLM says White Horse and White Lines were dance song in the 80s and the 90s. Yep, sure was. Then we actually have a new person who came in today. King Troy said he just tapped into us and he likes our vibes. Well, we like your vibes too. Welcome. And then FLJ said Robin Thicke did a song called Cocaine, and so did Eric Clapton. You couldn't get no clearer than that. I mean, he just sang all, it's all right, it's all right, it's all right, cocaine. That's just right up in your face, right? And then Dennis Spragas, I know he's referring back to what we're talking about. You can't fight love. See, they can't fight us when we are talking about love and doing loving things in our communities. I think that it is also up to us to make sure that we tap into what is being surrounded by our kids. Just like I told you, my mom busted in and asked me what I know about Screams of Passion. Not a thing, mama, and that's all right. So when it comes to your children, Erica, how do you manage what they hear? Now, we all know we can't be around them 24/7, but what do you do to help instill them from the culture that's being pushed at them from the outside?
Girl, Erica ain't got no kids.
Oh, yes!
Baby!
Well, okay, I'm going to twist it. Because your father was in the music industry, right?
Both of my parents are in the music industry. I was a recording artist as well. When my father died, I performed under his stage name, Billy Lewis. So I saw a lot. I saw a lot as a kid. I saw how the industry broke my parents up. My father sang with the Drifters. My mother was the first female lead for the Pretenders, Valerie Scott. And then when she married my father, Pat Tandy came in and replaced my mother. So I saw the industry bring my parents together. They have two great children, my brother and I. And then subsequently, by the time I'm 13, 14 years old, these two people don't like each other and they're divorced. So I saw my father ended up, when he passed away 13 years ago, my father died of alcohol poisoning. Wow. Yeah, he died of alcohol poisoning and he died overseas. He died alone. It was very, very unfortunate. I mean, there was a lot of moving parts involved with that. I mean, but he chose what he chose and he had to live with his decision. And I think that when my parents divorced, I said, hey, if y'all can't work it out, people just can't work it out. But don't divorce your kids, and he wanted what he wanted more than he wanted his family. And you know what? Though that was the decision that he made, and you got to live with your decision. And I just don't think he ever made peace with that and was too prideful to call us and say, hey, y'all, I'm sorry. Because that's really all it would have took. Because my brother and I were just like, all right, you want to go get something to eat? Like, it wasn't a big thing for us. Once we became adults, functioning adults, it's like, well, that's y'all too. Like, you never know what your parents go through. Mommy got a story, daddy got a story. But guess what? As the kids, my brother and I had a story. We actually watched y'all not get along. So I watched the industry tear my family apart. I mean, I really watched it. My father got caught up and he just wanted what he wanted. And when he got what he wanted, it didn't look the way he thought it would look. And I think that's what a lot of artists don't realize. It's not always going to look the way it's going to look. When I had my record deal, I was contacted by executives after my father died, did a single deal, and somehow, lines got crossed. I was supposed to be at a photo shoot, but guess what? I didn't get an advance. I had to work. And like I told the executive, a hoe is only faithful to the pimp that pays. I was a full-time personal trainer and fitness instructor. The gym had a check that came to me every 2 weeks. I'm a loyal hoe. I went to work. Nelly got mad at me and said to me, I'm a dedicated hoe. You paying? I'm showing up at work. So the executive got mad at me and said to me, and I quote, "Bitch, I own you." And I couldn't stop laughing because I'm like, you don't even own your house. Like this is you.
Damn, you
You
just throwing them at them, girl.
Girl, listen, you had all the things. I
like
gotta
you.
use that
Did them
one.
with their bows.
Let's write that one down. That was
Right.
good. You don't own your
Own your
house.
house.
And I couldn't stop laughing. And then I also have to take into consideration my age. I was in my mid to late 30s. So there was a little restriction as to how far I was willing to go. So I went through what a lot of artists go through. I was suspended from recording. I wasn't allowed to go into the studio. And then when you think back to Toni Braxton, when she had all these problems, and then all of a sudden she's in the middle of this album that's about to drop, and I'm married and I'm pregnant. It's like, wait, what? And that's what happened. A lot of artists start rebelling against the label to take back their time. These ladies will get married. These ladies will have kids back to back to back to back, because that's the only way they can get a breather. That's the only way they can almost put a stop to what's happening to them. Because you can control everything else, but I can control this body. I'm going to have these kids. So
That's
that's
on drugs. That's how the drug
Yes.
is. I mean, I believe that, when you don't know who you are, when you come to Hollywood and you work in the music industry, you have to know who you are. You have to know who you are, because there is so much happening around here, and people are enticing you in so many different ways, that if you don't know, you can fall for anything. I feel like Whitney Houston wasn't really living her truth a lot of the time. Like, she wasn't being the person that she wanted to be. She was like propped up. She was the voice, like, and they put a lot of pressure on her to like live up to these standards. And I think that's where drug use comes from, like in these spaces anyway. We started talking about Nelly, and I was just thinking, like, let's say Nelly does use drugs, right? Let's just say that this is a real thing, right? When he was busted for marijuana and meth, and then also, like, let's just say he has a little problem. Nelly has been a superstar, right? But he's getting a little older and he's falling from grace. Maybe he hasn't reached the pinnacles that he thought that he wanted to reach, and maybe, you know what I mean? Like, I just think like there's something polarizing about being in the industry and being here, and then one day being there, and like what it drives you to do, or to take that pain away, like maybe, whatever validation you were looking for. So I just start thinking about things that way, like what would drive someone.
what people don't realize. Just like you go up the stairs, you have to come back down. You don't just sit at the top of the stairwell. You have to come back down. And even if you don't go all the way back down to the basement, you may come back down to mid-level, because it's an escalator. Somebody's got to go up, somebody's got to come down. Somebody's got to go up, somebody's got to come down. And the minute you feel as if you want to speak your mind or speak out, they will kick you down the escalator. So,
Wow.
it's wild. It's a wild ride, and you hear a lot of artists say that it's a wild ride, because it is.
Yeah, and especially in LA, because people don't introduce themselves to you like what they are. They introduce you by who they played with, and they're trying to see what they can get out of you before you've even had any type of conversation about, hey, my name is Lala, and I moved here from such and such. No, I played with Bobby McFerrin. I played with this, and I played with that. I played with this, and I played, and I'm on this week. I opened for El DeBarge, and hey, bro, what's your name?
Yeah, they lead with it.
That part is
I don't trust anybody that I know their whole life within the next first 15 minutes. I'm like, that didn't turn
And
me
you
all
have to
off.
understand, a lot of these people, because when I lived in California for a year, unrelated to the industry, I was working in fitness. You have to understand, 90% of those folks living in LA that are artists, even the ones you see on TV, they are broke.
Fake. This fake. Yeah, everybody's fake too.
Have any money.
No, they don't.
They don't. You having a full-time job with benefits, a lot of times you have more than they do. They can go out and be seen and
It's only like 5% or 10% of people in Hollywood that are actually making money.
making money.
Uh-huh.
Yes. Everybody
And
else
they
is
ain't trying to
figure
share it
out.
with you. Okay. They ain't
No
trying to
broke
share it
ass.
with you.
Exactly.
Now we're talking about we've talked about, you know, how we feel like they are pushing this on our community. But let's look at a few stats because I think it's really important to keep our balance. We love to be able to talk about these things, but we always don't want to be one-sided. I happen to agree that they do push these things on us. But this was actually an associate professor of public health. It is time to turn a critical eye to how opiate misuse permeates hip hop lyrics, creating an entryway for Black young adults into American opiate epidemic. And then she says, or I'm not sure if it's she or he, sorry. These songs promote using opiates while engaging in high risk activities like unprotected sex or speeding. And while she is a hip hop fan, from a public health perspective, it's just dangerous. Guess this was a female. Yes, I actually do see that a lot. But I also feel like they know the conglomerate and they know the statistics of our communities, and so they use that. But according to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, African Americans are disproportionately affected by drug arrests and convictions, despite similar usage rates as other groups. Constance, this taps right into your wheelhouse with this. I know that you've talked about this before, but have you actually had an experience or someone in your family who has been disproportionately pushed on? I do know that in LA, especially, a lot of the Black men in the places like Compton and Watts, they get pulled over for really no reason at all. A lot of them are really good kids. So have you experienced that in your life?
I haven't, honestly. No. I don't have a whole lot of drug use in my family, and I don't have a whole lot of people who are incarcerated. I don't have a high number of incarceration. But I will say this: when you look at the history of this country and you look at the 13th Amendment that said slavery is abolished except for prison, right? And so how they started. So now you have more people that are in prisons, especially Black men, than there were when they were slaves. And they've done all of these things since the abolishment of slavery. So you have Black codes, which incarcerated Black men for just loitering, things like that, doing regular stuff. So anything that they could to put Black men in prison, they did. So then you move on down to, you know, the 60s and 70s and the 80s. Now you have a whole drug issue that's being run rampant. CIA. Look at, you guys know Gary Webb. Gary Webb was an investigator for the San Jose Mercury News. I'm from San Jose Mercury News. He's the one that exposed that the CIA was putting drugs in the Black community. And guess what happened to him, y'all? Y'all know what happened to him? He committed suicide by shooting himself twice in the back of the head. I don't know how a person could commit suicide by shooting themselves twice in the back of the head, but it was ruled a suicide. Right. So he exposed the CIA for pushing drugs in the Black community. Now, when it was a war on drugs, that's when we were heavily incarcerated, even with weed, heavily incarcerated. But as soon as the opioid usage had crossed over to the white community, now it's an illness. Now they're not arresting. It's a national crisis. They're not arresting at the same rate. So you got to think about what happens on with the powers that be. Again, I think it's an attack on Black people because we are public enemy number one, and they're doing everything that. I was having a conversation with Boyce maybe last week, and he said, "Well, I don't see." You know, I only see Black when I go to Chicago. I see Black people, you know, killing Black people. I don't see white people. I said they don't have to. The moment we stop killing each other, the white people gonna try to start up again because they've done so much. They put the drugs, now it's the music. They've done so much so that we can continue killing each other. And yes, as long as we keep doing it, they good. They ain't got to get their hands dirty. The moment we stop.
Exactly. Exactly. Dr. Lene is actually in our viewership today. Hi, Queen. We miss you. Hell yeah, they do. No other culture or race accepts the type of music that is pushed into our communities through musicians. No other music glorifies drugs, degrades women, and preaches self-hate. And then she also says, LOL, when it starts affecting them, there's a problem. So now I'm going to throw this monkey wrench in this because, as I recall, smoking marijuana, or weed as we call it, or Mary Jane as you call it, used to be something that was looked down upon. But to me, I feel like corporate America now sees opportunity to make this a high producing amount of money. And so now we see the laws are rolling back on that. And a lot of the states are now decriminalizing weed. Whereas to me, that's a natural thing. Whereas a lot of these things that they're hearing in the culture, these opiates, these mollies, these fentanyls, those are man-made demons. Constance, what is your thought about? I'm sorry, Constance. I asked you.
Actually, let me answer. Let me just comment on that really quick. So the reason why I own a marijuana dispensary in California, but the reason why I got into it was because I saw how they criminalized Black men and how all these white men were making millions and millions of dollars. And the same thing that they criminalized Black men for. So that's the reason why I wanted to have a seat at the table with owning a marijuana dispensary, because I wanted to now partake in benefiting from it like so many of our brothers and our sisters weren't able to.
Exactly.
And there's still people in jail right now for this.
Exactly.
Right? Like it's crazy to me that people are still suffering in this way or still sitting in jail. Exactly, Dr. Lene. Exactly.
Yeah, Dr. Lene says, I need them to go and release all my brothers and sisters who are currently incarcerated behind Mary Jane. That's crazy. How is it legal now, but folks are still serving time? That's what I want to know. Yeah. I literally want to know that, because they're talking about decriminalizing. Okay, well, if you're going to do that, you need to release these people.
Because it's about legalized slavery. That's what it's about. It's not about the justice, giving people justice. It's about keeping people enslaved. You have these privatized prison systems that are getting paid. How much are they getting paid by the states every day that somebody is sitting up in that jail? That's the reason why they're doing it.
That's right. Listen, and Terry Watson agrees with you too. She says, I agree, Constance, there's an attack on our people. If you're just now,
go ahead. We just got to wake up.
I'll keep talking over you. I'm so sorry, Erica.
Sorry.
Just the other day, we saw, I don't know if you all saw this, but T.I. was arrested at the airport in Atlanta for mistaken identity.
Yep.
What?
Somebody else with his name.
T.I.'s identity in Atlanta.
Somebody else with the name Tip.
Somebody had the same name, Clifford Harris, that he has. So we're not going to check the social security number. We're not going to check the date of birth. We're not going to check and see if he even resembles this person, because we know Tip ain't 6 feet. Come on. I mean, so it is truly calculated against Black men, against Black women. So we have to be just as calculated in our resolve to this as they are calculated to create problems for us.
Let me say two things. Highlight Dr. Lene Javette. She said, those glasses is fresh, Constance. You look like a PhD. Public high school diploma, PhD, baby. Yes, yes.
Love it. If you're just now joining us, you see that this conversation is hot. It's a hot topic. But we are Fly Nubian Money, and we are very happy that you're here. We are appreciating all the comments. We're loving the conversation. We are here Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. You can make sure that you text the word Queens, Queens, to 87948 so that you don't ever miss an episode. Make sure you go on over to Spotify. Now, you know you've heard us say this all along. Now, why haven't you done it? Go on over there and subscribe, because you know you want to take us on the road, right? So go on over there and do that. Give us a 5-star rating. And then also you want to make sure that you go and get your money right. Okay. A lot of the things we do in our communities, we are always the last at. And one of the things is finances. Well, we don't have to stay last in finances. You can educate yourself and up-level yourself to know what you can do with your money. And we do that on our website. So you want to head on over to flynubianmoney.com. We have a lot of resources, a lot of some things that you can do to help you get started on building your financial house. Things are changing, y'all. Things are changing fast. So you want to make sure that you keep your financial house in order. So I'm going to switch it up a little bit because we're coming up on the hour and we've had such a wonderful conversation. But I would love to hear your final thoughts with this question. And then, of course, tell us where we can find you. How do we shift this narrative and the stigmas associated with drug use in our culture? I'm going to throw it to you first, Tiara.
You know what? Oh,
you always act surprised.
I'm like, wait, what are we starting with me first? Okay. Repeat the question for me one more time, Lala. How can we what? Lala? One more
You're
time.
you're a little low too, by the way.
Yeah, it's like I can't really hear. What? Can you repeat the question for me, Lala, please?
I can if the gremlins let me tell you on my mute
Right, it's
button
going
is
in and
working.
out.
I know it. How do we shift the narrative and the stigmas associated with drug use in our culture?
Yeah, I just think that we have to be aware. You know, we have to be aware and not distracted about what's going on. I feel like sometimes we're so distracted with social media and like trivial things that we miss the big picture. We miss what's going on. Um I like Constance has said so many times this hour that it's a blatant attack on our community, but you have to know that you're being attacked. You have to know that there's a war going on. If you don't know, you can't be defenseless. You're gonna be drunk, right? You hide somewhere in the corner and don't know that you're in the middle of a war. So I think that if we can just shift those gears and understand what it is. I think, it's so funny because people say all the time, like, in 2024, are we really still saying this about Black people? And I'm saying, insert anything into that. We're talking about colorism, we're talking about discrimination, housing issues, like all things. We can just put whatever that is in that little blank, right? I can't believe that Black people are still dealing with this. And it's because we're just not really, I think people are just not aware that we're still dealing. It's like, no, we got the internet, we have freedoms. Like, I got a job. Like, Black people are on the same page, but we're not, and so I just think we have to be aware of that. Black people, let's be aware of where we are and where we stand. My name is Tiara Williams. I'm also known as Miss Black Hollywood. I am at MSBLACK across all platforms. I believe that at the baseline of every successful business is storytelling. I happen to have spent the last 20 years of my life telling stories through television, film. I'm an actress, a songwriter. I do all of the things creative. And so I help entrepreneurs do the same thing with their brand. So if you are interested in contacting me, hit me up at Miss Black Hollywood or info at realvirtual.net.
Real, how do you spell real?
Can you put it up, Gwen? Info at realvirtual.net.
And she does all the things.
Because
So you need to make
I
sure.
be producing from the side. I be producing and stuff like that. So, info at realvirtual.net.
So if you wanted to see the face behind that email, you got it right here, right? Make sure you hit her up. We love our talented Tiara. Erica, I'm going to throw that question to you. What can we do about this? And tell us where we can find you.
I think artist control has just gotten away from us. People are not writing anymore. There's a lot more ghostwriters out here for songs. And it's really important as an artist that you have some way to contribute to your project, some way to contribute to your music. Don't just, go to the studio when you're just sitting there just watching the process happen and you just start reading off of a piece of paper in the booth. No, have something that you can contribute. It is so important to write. I have been an artist my whole life. I danced, I played piano, which I hated, but I did it. Piano, I danced, I sang, had an album out, and did all of these things. But the one thing that I was so passionate about that I kept was my writing. Like that is the heartbeat, because it is my voice. And I think what's happening is we are losing the Black voice in a lot of our music. We see the Black faces in the videos. We see the Black faces on the stage accepting awards, but is it the Black voice that's behind the music? And I can honestly say, I think not. So it's really important to keep your voice, take a creative writing class, just be confident in yourself as an artist and do not put down the pen. My name is Erica Lewis. I'm the author of Faith in Transition. You can find me on all social medias at Miss Erica Renee or at my website at faithintransition.com.
Thank you, Erica. All right, Constance, I'm going to throw it to you. What do you think that we can do to get out of this this hole I feel like we're in of shadow of what other people want to throw up on us?
That is kind of a complicated question, because I was thinking about that and how do you really be thoughtful and really make a difference? And I think these conversations are extremely important, because I think we just don't know. We don't know that we're being brainwashed. We don't know what's being put in our community. We don't know. So we have to keep having these conversations. And what you hear here, you need to spread it to your people. I also think ownership is extremely important. So right now, we are in the best time in the history of the world with everything that we have. We have more power in the palm of our hands with our cell phones than when they put the man on the moon. We have more technology in the power of our hands than when they put the man on the moon. So you can create your own music on GarageBand, on an iPhone. You can do, I forget that one of my daughter's favorite groups, they did their whole album on GarageBand. I forget what they're kind of like a newer neo soul group. In any case, ownership. So we have to start making our own decisions. We have to be the ones in charge and continuing to put out good music regardless. And I think it's really sad for artists, because one of the things that I'm hearing a lot from some of my favorite artists is that they're not getting paid anymore because of streaming. They don't have control, so they're having to make their money by, grinding it out on the road. I'm good friends with Warren G. And when the pandemic happened, him sitting home, and all of his money went away because he couldn't go on tour. And that's the case with mostly everybody. But I think the thing about it is everybody's not meant to be an entrepreneur. Some people are just really creative, and the ones who are meant to be entrepreneurs, we need to take ownership and start building these businesses and these record companies that we're in charge of, so that we can tell our own stories. It's important that people like Tiara is a storyteller, that she's telling those stories. Erica, you are a writer, and it's important that you start telling those stories, those positive stories, that people can hear those positive stories, and just keep pushing it out, having these conversations, dialoguing. I think that's it. That's the only thing I know that we can do. And then we can continue to do it. Maybe it'll be a snowball effect, but we have to keep having these conversations. Who am I? I'm Constance Carter. I built the largest Black-owned real estate firm in California, and I am a wealth activist and a rapper. I'm pretty good at it too. No, I'm just kidding. But you can follow me anywhere at I am Constance Carter. I love Black people, and one of the things I do is I help Black women increase their net worth by at least $1 million. And so I'm helping creating entrepreneurs that are game changers and world changers out here in the world. So if you are interested in anything that I do, go to my website, ConstanceCarter.com, and follow me everywhere. I am Constance Carter.
Love that. And I have to tag on with Constance. A lot of times we have to put the focus on our communities and help these kids see that they're more talented than what is being pushed upon them. A lot of kids do have hidden talents, but are we really paying attention? Or we're so busy bashing them before we're paying attention to what they are talented at? Okay, so maybe you hear Little Ray Ray doing some of these lyrics that he hears. Why don't you challenge Little Ray Ray to write his own and overwrite whatever he's hearing? Because when you get it in your own DNA and your own spirit, that's when the things start changing. So we need to make sure that we are vigilant over our community as well as our children, and let them know that what everything they see is not always their reality. It's not. Just because someone says they have a perception of you doesn't mean that you have to walk that path. You are the master of your own destiny, and we need to make sure that we encourage our children in that direction. I am Laura Key, and you can find me at bit.ly/Laura Key Info. I'm an international real estate agent. I'm also a vocalist. How could I not be able to doing that since I was 3? But we all have multi-talents. It's just time for you to tap on in. So if you want to see some of the free resources that I have, you can head on over to their website, and then we'll get you possibly thinking outside the box. Today, we have had such a wonderful conversation, lots of comments. We appreciate you for being here. We are Fly Nubian Money. We are here Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You don't want to miss an episode. So what you need to do is pick up this little assistant and type in the word Queens, Queens, and type that to 87948. Then make sure you go on over to Spotify, support us there. But I really want to stress to you today, because I think you also see that money is connected to a lot of this. Somebody's got the money strings, whether they're trying to control our communities or not. You have to learn to control your financial house, right? That power is in your hands. So go on over to flynubianmoney.com, because we have a lot of free resources and a lot of free classes that you can take. Maybe you're confused and you just don't even know where to start. Well, there's your starting point, because once you have that starting point, you can see the goal line. We thank you for being here. We are on a Thursday today, so make sure that you come back tomorrow and don't miss an episode. We love you and thank you. Have a wonderful
Armando,
day.
thank you for liking us today. I don't think he liked us earlier this week, but we love